August 22nd, 2024. 02:37 hours. Novorossiysk Commercial Seaport, Krasnodar Krai, Russia. Largest Russian port on Black Sea. Annual cargo throughput, 143 million tons. Strategic petroleum export terminal. Grain shipment hub. Military logistics node. In 93 minutes, Ukrainian drones transform this into the costliest single infrastructure strike in modern warfare history. Estimated damage, $20 billion. This is Military Front, where we analyze the operations that redefine strategic strike capability. Novorossiysk represents critical Russian infrastructure. The port handles 38% of Russia's crude oil exports, 62% of grain shipments to global markets. Military cargo for Syria operations transits through these facilities. Naval vessels resupply here. The facility generates approximately $12 billion annually in revenue. Russia cannot replace this capacity. There are no alternatives with equivalent throughput. Ukrainian military intelligence studied this target for 11 months. Satellite imagery analysis, shipping pattern tracking, security system evaluation, structural vulnerability assessment. They identified 12 critical choke points. Strike any 3 simultaneously. Port operations cease for months. Strike all 12. Port potentially unusable for years. The operation codename, Morski Molot, Sea Hammer. Attack package, 47 long-range attack drones. Ukrainian designed and manufactured. Range, 1,000 kilometers. Payload per drone, 75 kilograms high explosive. Total explosive load, 3,525 kilograms, distributed across strategic targets. Estimated production cost per drone, $32,000. Total strike package value, approximately $1.5 million. Targets worth $20 billion. Which infrastructure components suffered most critical damage? A. Oil terminals. B. Grain facilities. C. Military logistics. Your analysis and comments. Ukrainian preparations required unprecedented operational security. The drones launched from multiple positions across Ukraine, staggered departure times to achieve simultaneous arrival, different flight paths to avoid pattern recognition, electronic warfare support to disrupt Russian air defense radar, decoy drones to saturate defensive systems, reconnaissance UAVs providing real-time battle damage assessment. Western intelligence contributions proved decisive. U.S. satellite systems tracked Russian air defense deployments around Novorossiysk, identified gaps in coverage, revealed optimal approach vectors. British signals intelligence monitored Russian port security communications, detected shift changes, pinpointed minimal alert periods. NATO technical experts reviewed strike planning, suggested modifications to maximize infrastructure damage per drone impact. This wasn't random attack. This was surgical demolition planned with industrial engineering precision. Stay with me. The next 87 minutes demonstrate how inexpensive drone technology can achieve strategic effects that conventional airstrikes costing hundreds of millions cannot accomplish, and why critical infrastructure protection has become impossible in the drone era. Phase 1. Approach. The drones departed Ukrainian territory beginning 00:53 hours. 47 aircraft launching over 90-minute window. Each drone programmed with specific target coordinates. Autonomous navigation systems guiding flight paths. Altitude. Extremely low level, 50 to 200 meters above terrain following Black Sea coastal approach. Speed. 190 kilometers per hour. Russian radar systems designed to detect fast-moving fighter aircraft struggle with slow, small drones at extremely low altitude. Russian air defense around Novorossiysk. 2 Panzer S-1 mobile systems. 3 S-300 batteries positioned for high-altitude threats. Multiple man-portable air defense systems. radar coverage seemingly comprehensive. But the coverage optimized for NATO aircraft attack scenarios, fighter jets approaching at 500 knots, cruise missiles at high subsonic speed. The defensive network never anticipated 47 slow drones arriving from multiple vectors simultaneously. O2-3714, first drone detected by Russian coastal radar. Alert transmitted to Air Defense Command. Pantsir system activates, radar lock acquired. Missile launch. Successful interception. Russian operators celebrate. They destroyed an incoming threat, exactly according to protocol. They don't realize this drone was designated decoy. Its purpose? Reveal defensive positioning and deplete ammunition stocks. O2-3822, 3 more drones detected. Pantsir systems engage all 3, 2 destroyed. 1 damaged but continues flying. Russian air defense expended 8 surface-to-air missiles. Ammunition stocks diminishing. Meanwhile, 43 attack drones approach from different vectors completely undetected. How many critical infrastructure targets ultimately struck? A, 8B, 11C, 15? Answer revealed at end. O2-3951. Main attack wave arrives. 11 drones simultaneously strike primary petroleum export terminal. The terminal consists of 4 massive storage tanks, each containing 50,000 cubic meters of crude oil. Elevated loading platforms, kilometers of pressurized pipelines, pumping stations, control facilities. The drones target specific structural weak points identified through engineering analysis. First drone impacts tank number 3 at pipeline connection junction. 75-kilogram warhead detonates. The explosion ruptures main feed line. Crude oil under pressure sprays across facility. Within seconds, ignition. Massive fireball erupts. Temperature exceeds 1,000 degrees Celsius. The fire spreads to adjacent pipelines. Second and third drones strike tank number 1 simultaneously. Dual impact creates catastrophic structural failure. 50,000 cubic meters of crude oil, approximately 314,000 barrels, spills across terminal grounds. The burning oil from Tank 3 ignites this massive spill. The petroleum terminal transforms into raging inferno visible from space. This is military front, where strategic strikes achieve economic effects exceeding military victories. Russian emergency response mobilizes immediately. Fire brigades from 3 cities converge on port. Foam suppression systems activate. Water cannons deploy. The fire overwhelms all suppression efforts. Petroleum fires burn at temperatures that vaporize water before it reaches flames. Foam systems designed for small-scale incidents cannot handle this conflagration. The terminal burns uncontrollably. Better port defense. Additional air defense systems or distributed fuel storage? Comment A for air defense or D for distributed storage. 02-4133. 8 drones strike grain export terminal complex. 3 massive grain elevators. Loading facilities. Railway connections. Conveyor systems. Administrative buildings. The grain elevators contain approximately 240,000 tons of wheat destined for export. Each drone targets elevator foundation supports identified as structural critical points. The explosions don't merely damage the grain elevators, they trigger cascading structural failure. Elevator number 1, 12 stories tall, holding 80,000 tons of grain, collapses completely. The collapse creates grain avalanche that buries loading facilities and crushes railway cars. Elevator number 2 suffers partial collapse. Upper 6 floors drop onto lower structure. Elevator number 3 remains standing but tilted 15 degrees off vertical. Structural engineers later declare it too dangerous for demolition, must be carefully disassembled. Grain dust from collapsed elevators creates secondary hazard. Fine particulate forms, explosive mixture with air. spontaneous ignition from electrical short circuits. Grain dust explosion ripples through facility. The blast wave shatters windows 3 kilometers away. Additional fires erupt across grain terminal. Total grain destroyed or contaminated, approximately 240,000 tons. Market value at current prices, $96 million. But the strategic impact exceeds immediate loss. Russia loses critical export capacity. Global grain markets react to supply disruption. Wheat futures prices spike 8% within hours. If you believe strategic infrastructure strikes achieve more than tactical battlefield victories, type military front in the comments. EO2 4308. 9 drones target military logistics section. This facility handles equipment transfers to Russian forces in Syria, ammunition storage warehouses, vehicle maintenance facilities, naval resupply depot, fuel storage for military vessels. The section occupies southern portion of port complex, separated from commercial operations by security barriers. First wave of 3 drones strikes ammunition warehouses. Massive secondary explosions as stored munitions detonate. The facility contained artillery shells, rocket propellant, small arms ammunition, and demolition charges awaiting shipment. Chain reaction explosions continue for 17 minutes. Each detonation triggers additional blasts. The warehouse complex completely destroyed. Debris rains across surrounding area. Second wave targets vehicle maintenance depot. 4 drones strike building complex servicing military transport trucks. The depot contained 37 vehicles undergoing repair or modification. Explosions destroy vehicles, spare parts inventory, maintenance equipment, and the building structure itself. Total loss. Final 2 drones strike naval fuel depot. Similar effect as petroleum terminal strike, but smaller scale. Fuel storage tanks explode. Burning diesel spreads across facility. Naval vessels at nearby piers forced to emergency depart to avoid fire damage. ZO2 4452. 6 drones strike port infrastructure systems, electrical substations providing power to entire facility, water treatment plants processing ballast water discharge, communication centers coordinating ship traffic, crane control systems managing cargo operations, administrative buildings housing Port Authority offices, each target selected to maximize operational disruption. 1 drone destroys primary electrical substation. Port loses main power supply. Backup generators activate but cannot support full operations. Cargo cranes cease operation. Lighting systems fail. Refrigerated storage for agricultural products loses cooling. Communication systems switch to emergency power with limited capability. Another drone strikes Port Traffic Control Center. The facility manages vessel approach coordination, berth assignments, tugboat operations, and harbor navigation. Its destruction creates immediate chaos. 7 ships approaching port receive conflicting instructions. 2 vessels nearly collide in harbor entrance. Port operations halt completely pending restoration of traffic control. What would NATO Infrastructure Protection Doctrine recommend? Comment your analysis and tag someone studying critical infrastructure security. Total Russian casualties remain relatively low despite massive destruction. Attack occurred during minimal staffing hours. Most port workers off duty. Security personnel on night shift. Approximately 140 individuals across entire facility. Emergency evacuation procedures implemented rapidly. Official Russian government reports claim 17 killed, 43 injured. Ukrainian intelligence estimates significantly higher casualties, but cannot confirm. The strategic value of this strike never depended on casualty figures. This was economic warfare and infrastructure destruction. Economic impact analysis. Petroleum terminal damage. 4 major storage tanks destroyed. Pipeline infrastructure severely damaged. Pumping stations non-operational. Loading platforms structurally compromised. Estimated repair timeline. 18 to 24 months. Estimated costs, $4.2 billion. Lost revenue during reconstruction, approximately $16 billion based on pre-strike annual throughput. Grain terminal damage, 2 grain elevators total loss. 1 elevator structurally unsound requiring demolition. Loading systems destroyed. Railway connections severed. Estimated repair timeline, 36 months minimum. Estimated costs, $800 million. Lost export capacity affects Russian grain sales and global market positioning. Military logistics damage. Ammunition warehouses total loss. Vehicle depot destroyed. Naval fuel facility severe damage. Strategic impact. Russian Syria operations face supply chain disruption. Mediterranean squadron resupply complicated. Ammunition transfer capability degraded. Estimated reconstruction, 12 months. Costs, $600 million. Infrastructure systems damage. Electrical substations require complete rebuilding. Traffic control center destroyed. Communications networks compromised. Water treatment plants damaged. These systems interconnect, cannot repair independently. Estimated reconstruction, 8 months. Costs, $300 million. Total estimated damage, $20 billion minimum. This becomes single most expensive infrastructure strike in modern warfare history, surpassing previous record. Iranian strikes against Saudi Aramco facilities in September 2019, which caused estimated $17 billion damage. Russian response proved ineffective. Air defense systems could not prevent the attack. Fire suppression couldn't contain resulting damage. Port operations ceased completely for 47 days. Partial operations resumed after 3 months. Full capacity restoration timeline, unknown, possibly years. Insurance companies disputed coverage, claiming war exclusion clauses. International shipping companies rerouted vessels to alternative Russian ports, creating congestion and delays throughout Russian logistics network. This is military front, because understanding modern warfare requires recognizing that strategic paralysis can be achieved through precision infrastructure strikes costing mere millions of dollars. Strategic implications extended far beyond immediate physical damage. Global insurance rates for Black Sea shipping increased dramatically. Russia lost market share for petroleum and grain exports to competitors. International customers diversified suppliers to reduce dependence on Russian logistics chains. The port strike achieved strategic economic effects that battlefield victories could not replicate. Ukrainian production capability for long-range strike drones expanded following this success. Pre-strike production, estimated 25 drones monthly. Post-strike production, Ukrainian defense sources claim 75 drones monthly. Western component supplies increased. Domestic manufacturing capacity grew. Ukraine developed indigenous deep strike capability, threatening targets throughout Russian territory. Western military analysts studied the operation intensively. Key lessons identified. 1. Critical infrastructure extremely vulnerable to drone attacks, regardless of air defense density. Traditional systems cannot effectively counter slow, small, numerous targets approaching from multiple vectors. 2. Economic warfare. Through infrastructure strikes can achieve strategic effects exceeding conventional military operations. Destroying petroleum terminals and grain elevators impacts Russian economy more than destroying military units. 3. Autonomous attack drones provide force multiplication, allowing smaller nations to threaten larger opponents' strategic depth. Ukraine, with limited resources, struck targets 1,000 kilometers from border. 4. Modern ports represent single-point failure vulnerabilities in global trade systems. Concentration of critical capabilities creates attractive targets. 5. Insurance and financial markets respond to infrastructure vulnerability faster than military responses. Global shipping patterns adapted within weeks. 6. reconstruction timelines for complex infrastructure exceed weapons production timelines. Russia can build new tanks in months. Rebuilding Novorossiysk port requires years. NATO infrastructure protection working groups revise defensive doctrines following detailed analysis. New emphasis on distributed systems, redundant capabilities, hardened facilities, enhanced air defense specifically designed for drone threats. The lessons from Novorossiysk influence military planning across alliance. 3 months after the strike, satellite imagery revealed reconstruction progress. Petroleum terminal showed minimal repairs. Grain elevators remained collapsed. Military logistics section partially operational. Port throughput remained approximately 40% of pre-strike capacity. Russian economic impact continued accumulating. Quiz answer B. 11 critical targets struck successfully. 4 petroleum storage tanks, 3 grain elevators, 2 ammunition warehouses, 1 vehicle depot, 1 naval fuel facility. An additional 4 drones hit secondary targets including electrical substations and administrative buildings. Total successful impacts, 15. Several drones were shot down or malfunctioned, but primary mission objectives achieved complete success. 3 crucial questions. Was Ukraine's decision to strike civilian infrastructure justified under international humanitarian law? The port served dual military-commercial purpose. Military logistics facilities constituted legitimate targets. Petroleum and grain terminals supported Russian war economy. Attack occurred during minimal staffing hours, reducing civilian casualties. But significant civilian economic disruption resulted. International law experts debate proportionality. Ukraine argues economic warfare against. Could Russian air defenses have prevented this strike through different deployment or procedures? Additional Pantsir systems covering low-altitude approaches might have increased interception rates. Earlier detection through enhanced radar coverage could have provided more warning time. But fundamental problem remains. Defensive systems designed for previous generation threats cannot handle swarm attacks by numerous small drones. Required solution: new defensive technologies specifically designed for drone threats. Russia lacked these capabilities. What would you prioritize defending if commanding port security? Concentrate air defense around petroleum terminals, highest value targets, distribute defenses evenly across all facilities, focus on preventing drone launches through offensive operations, accept vulnerability and instead build redundancy through alternative port facilities. Each option involves different costs and risks. Comment your strategic security analysis. Subscribe to Military Front, because analyzing infrastructure warfare reveals how economic targets can be more valuable than military objectives, and how technological innovation enables asymmetric strategies that conventional doctrine cannot counter. Novorossiysk port operates today at reduced capacity. Reconstruction continues slowly. Insurance costs remain elevated. International shipping maintains cautious approach. The strike's legacy extends beyond physical damage. Russia learned that critical infrastructure deep within its territory remains vulnerable. Ukraine demonstrated long-range strike capability. Global shipping recognized that no facility is truly safe in modern warfare. The destroyed grain elevator remains visible in satellite imagery. Collapsed structure too dangerous to approach. Warning to personnel: unstable wreckage, explosive atmosphere hazard, restricted area. Memorial to the era when wars were fought purely between militaries in defined battle spaces. Reminder that modern conflict encompasses economic systems, infrastructure networks, and global supply chains. Silent testimony that in contemporary warfare, strategic paralysis achieved through infrastructure destruction can be more valuable than tactical victories won through traditional combat. Stay vigilant. Critical infrastructure protection is now the front line.